I'm going to fill the lid, and I've got to stop it there because that colour is just so mind-blowing. You've got to see that for yourselves. Hey, welcome back to my channel. It's Wendy here from Toonpish Crafts, and I hope you're doing okay. Now, you might know that I love dragons, absolutely adore dragons, and I have not made enough this year. I really haven't. I need to fix that. So in the next few weeks, I'm going to be making all sorts of dragons. It's coming up to the Christmas season, so if you want to make Christmas gifts, then maybe I can give you some ideas. But for now, I'm going to start with the Let's Resin Dragon egg mould. I have converted it into something different other than just a pot, which is gorgeous, by the way, but now it's got an extra bit. So let's see how I get on with the dragon egg mould from Let's Resin. So this is the mould I'm using for Let's Resin. Honestly, I've had my eye on this mould for so long, but a lot of other people were using it, so I've held off until now. I think I'm going to love this pot. I really do. I mean, it's dragons, so I've got to, haven't I? But the detail in it is exquisite. I love the fact that around the base, it's full of crystals. As usual, everything I use in this video will be linked in the description box below, together with discount codes. I'm going to be using Manticore, which is a chameleon flake from Emma the Tiny Turner and is available on toonpish.com. It's a stunning colour, and I should make more use of this colour really, because it contains so many colours all in one go. Now I'm going to cover the inside of this mould, so I've turned it inside out and I'm just going to cover it with these flakes. Now, one thing I did learn from doing this is that the chameleon flakes stick to the silicone like you wouldn't believe. If I was coating this in mica powder, if I touched it, I could rub the powder off accidentally. But these chameleon flakes are very, very good at sticking to the silicone. But I am making sure I'm using a very fluffy makeup brush and I am burnishing it into the mould. You can see as I'm pushing it onto the silicone, it becomes more shiny, it comes alive. Now this is with a white mould behind it. Emma's flakes are really good at the coverage, at the colour, the deepness. Although chameleon pigments do work better with black behind them, Emma's colours don't necessarily need the black, although obviously it increases their effectiveness. This is on a white mould. You can see how bright and colourful this colour is. I really do need to use this colour more. It's a stunning colour, together with all Emma's range really. As I said, all Emma's colours are available on toonpish.com, and don't forget, if you're stuck for a Christmas gift for a crafter friend or a family member, I also sell digital gift cards. It's all done through Shopify and it's very safe and secure. Now, I'm not being too precious at whether I get the crystal area covered in flakes, because I'm going to clean those off. I don't mind the odd speckle here and there, but I am going to use a baby wipe and clean those areas just with a baby wipe, that's all. Any little areas, any little details I couldn't get the baby wipe in, I got a cotton ball with some isopropyl alcohol and just cleaned those as well. The inside of the areas is what I'm focusing on. The outside I'm not too worried about. A few speckles is not going to make much difference. Once I'm happy with that, this is where I realise that the flakes are so sturdy. I'm just using my hand to push the mould inside out, and it's not disrupting the colour at all. But when it touches its own silicone, then it can rub off. So I'm going to touch up any areas inside, because I don't want patchy colouring, just to make sure it is completely covered all the way round. I did find that when I was pushing the egg part out of the way to get the brush inside, it was taking more of the colour off because it was touching the silicone on the opposite side. So I was kind of being detrimental to myself actually, but I got there in the end. Now to make this egg uniform, I'm going to use the same colour in the lid. As you can see, this one little pot of manticore colour is still going strong. You need very little to colour a huge area. In fact, this is the same pot I got over a year ago. I've not gone into a new pot yet. I'm going to make sure I cover the entire piece, including the rim, because that will have resin in there, and also under the lip. It's quite difficult to see at this point whether I've covered under the lip, and as you can see there were patches, so I'm going right the way round under the lip and covering that too. I can't get over this colour. This colour is blue, gold, pink and all sorts. I'm going to be using Estoyo resin for this make. Estoyo resin is quite a high viscosity. It's quite a thick gloopy resin. I'm using their own AI mixer to mix the resin. And once I'm happy that I've mixed it well, scrape the sides and the bottom of the cup. No matter what mixer you use, you still need to do that, bottom and sides. I've separated a little out because I don't know if I'm going to need all this resin. And I'm using some black Vista pigment to dye the resin black. Now, I'm not affiliated with Vista, but their black is so jet black. I can't find at the moment another black as good as this. I'm going to fill the lid, and I've got to stop it there because that colour is just so mind-blowing. You've got to see that for yourselves. Now, it did occur to me this lid is really quite chunky. It is a chunky mould, and I do believe that because this is a normal shallow pour resin, this mould is definitely more than 1.5 centimetres, which is recommended. It's more like 2 inches. So I decided to put a piece of silicone in the middle. I'll show you why later, but I did have to babysit this lid for about an hour and keep moving that silicone back into the middle because silicone does wander when it's floating. And as the resin's curing, it will move it. You've got to go around the outside edge to try and get any trapped air out, and a lot of the time I use a little piece of bent wire. This is a Christmas hanging decoration wire that's looped at the end to try and oink out any bubbles that are stuck under lips like this. They are notorious for catching air. If you want to know more about the silicone inlay I've put in the middle, I will link a video in the top right hand corner that will show you exactly how I made this inlay and when I first used it. Now, I did actually go on to sell a couple of these inlays on my website, but I only made them because it was requested. If you want me to make any of these tea light silicone inlays, please message me either via the website or email. Moving on to the base itself, and I'm going to fill this mould, but only up to where the crystals start. Now, the crystals are not in a uniform line around the outside edge of the mould, so I'm going to have to stop where the highest crystal is. So I'm turning the mould around so that I don't accidentally pour any black into the crystal area, and I just stop before the lowest or highest point. Does that make sense? I hope so. As I'm pouring over the middle, it is kind of clinging to the colour, which is good because I don't want an uneven inside pot. So that's good. Hopefully it'll stay there, but we won't know until it's totally cured. Now, this resin cures in 24 hours, but just 3 hours later, I am able to pour another layer. The resin in the bottom has jellied enough that it won't mix with another layer of colour, but it's cooled down enough that it won't overheat if I fill this mould up. I have some colours already mixed, and I'll put the names of these colours on the screen. But these were made for a different project, and as I had quite a lot of resin left over, I thought they would go perfect with the bottom of this dragon egg. You know I like purple. I really enjoy mixing and matching purples in items, in things that I'm making. So I'm mixing white, purple and a ghost blue into this bottom of the mould. This resin is warm. It's been made about 15 to 20 minutes earlier and it really has warmed up nicely. Unfortunately, I ran out of resin, so I made a tiny bit more with the 3 colours and just topped up the mould. And when I got to the top, I swirled the last little bit around with a micro brush. That last bit is not warm. The earlier parts of resin were already warm. Now, just 1 hour after putting the extra resin into the base part of the mould, I'm going to put the same colour, Manticore, on the black part of the lid. Now, this resin is not cured. It is still soft. However, it does have a toughness to it. So I can put some colour on very gently. I don't want to push on it because I will distort the resin. But a very soft brush can sweep in this Manticore colour, and because the resin is still very, very sticky, very tacky, it will hold on to that colour. So I'm not going to burnish the colour in just yet. I'm just going to make sure it's covered, and then I'm just going to leave it to cure until the following day. I do, however, burnish it before I start filming, so apologies for that. The following day we can demold. Firstly, I'm going to demold the lid. Now straight away I can see I have a few bubbles, and I can also see the amazing colour of that lid. It's absolutely gorgeous. How many colours are in there? Pink, blue, gold, maybe even a little green. But I do have some tiny bubble holes that I am going to need to fill. And I do go on to fill those off camera with UV resin. Time to take my silicone plug out of the middle. And if you don't know, it's going to be a tea light holder. Now again, it's black because the resin is black, and I don't want to leave it black. I want it the same colour as the rest of the egg. So we'll sort that out in a moment. When it comes to the base, I am so excited about this base. You know how much I love purple, you know how much I love dragons, and it's all coming together in one place. Absolutely can't wait to see this. It takes a little effort to roll back the mould, but when I get to see the inside of the pot, I'm in total love. That colour is just the perfect colour for this. Now, the crystals didn't come out as clear as I wanted, but I do love the way they've come out. I love the mottled effect, and the egg around the crystals just is perfect. Well, for me at least, even with 2 pours of resin, 3 even. When it comes to the lid, it is slightly over poured, so I have to trim up the edge to put it together. But I think this, to be honest, is my favourite make of the year. Honestly, I love it. The colours are amazing. I love the crystals at the bottom. They're all different patchy, but I think they work. And the egg sitting in the crystals is just beautiful on this mould. I love this mould. And I don't know why I've waited so long to make it. I so need to make more of these. But now I do have to fix the colour on the inside of the egg lid. So I'm putting it on a little tea light holder. That is the tea light holder that I used to make the inlay with. Where I've trimmed up the edges and filled in the bubbles, I want that area covered in colour too. So I'm going to use some metal size glue. Metal size glue is used by a lot of restorers and artists, professionals, and it's designed to be really thin, dry, clear and tacky, so you can put glitter or gold leaf or any kind of additive on top of your pieces and they will all stay there, they won't move. So I've gone around all the areas that are black and have no colour, and you wait 45 minutes for it to go clear. So 45 minutes later and it's all clear and tacky, just ready for the Manticure colour. I use tweezers with this because it's easier to pick up than using the brush. Once I have a nice amount inside, you just brush it round, let it stick to the surface, and then when it's all stuck, then you can burnish it. Really push it in and make it shiny. And all those little areas that are just black resin will get covered in this colour. It may look a little different than when it sticks to resin, but it's the same colour and it's gonna match in as best as you can match in a colour. Well, I think it's worked really well. You can see that little divot on the right hand side. That is because the resin was overheating. So if I hadn't have put the candle holder piece in the middle, it definitely would have overheated right the way through. So now you can see that if you put the lid upside down onto the egg, you can have a tea light holder as well as an egg pot. I wouldn't recommend a bare flame, definitely a battery operated tea light, but there's plenty on the market. And when you're done, you can store it inside your pot. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I've loved making this item and I hope that you enjoyed it too. Come back and see me next week because you never know what I'm going to be up to. I never know what I'm going to be up to. Have a great week. Happy crafting and bye for now.